Hi, my name is Kyle Badker. I'm with Sitech Midway. Today we'll be working on a 352 and we're going to be installing Trimble Earthworks on this system. So to get this 352 ready for Earthworks, we're going to make sure that we get the masts on, the receivers on, the radio communication underneath the cab, and the display for the operator interface with. And then we're going to do some measure ups to make sure this machine is nice and accurate. All right, welcome back. We have finished the install. We've already set up everything else. We've gone through the setup to set all the parameters for 3D and what kind of system that we're working on. We've done the fixed sensor initialization, a body calibration. The attachments have been done by the CAT Tech. Machine dimensions have been added, and then whenever we're running 3D masts, even if they're in here for factory, we always redo them to make sure that we're highly accurate. Next, we have the installation contact. So if you have any needs, a cable is broken or something like that, you can contact us. And then user permissions for their operators. This is something that is normally done by us as your Sitech provider. Once we're done, this is our normal operation. Right when we turn on, you're going to see CAT grade. We're going to tap that. This is what our operators are going to be doing every single day. It's just hitting that button and waiting for it to load. When it loads, we're going to hit the login. And we're going to see our startup screen. This is our dashboard that holds everything that we need to get the job started. So first off is we got our machine set up. Main thing is we want to make sure that we're in dual GNSS. And then we want to have a correction source. Today we're working with network 39 with the existing base that's set up. Hit apply. The next one is our system status, where it shows a list of our components that are supposed to be activated. If any of these are not working, there will be a red X through them, and that would be a sign to give us a call. We have the machine ECM, machine radio. We've got our left receiver. This is important for noticing if we have our corrections. Currently we have integrity is at 99%. We want to be at 99 to 100%. That's just giving us the corrections from our base station. This is the vertical and horizontal precisions. That's usually normal, about 200ths for vertical and 100th in horizontal. And just tells us everything else on here, and our satellite counts of 32. Our latency is just the time it took for that signal to get to us. It's under 0 seconds because the base is not that far from us. So next is our job setup. So in this case, this is just a test one. We're going to create a new one. We're just on the job site. We don't have any control or anything like that. We just want to do some simple basic digging. We're going to create our job site. It's called test for now. It's save. Next one is we're going to do design. We want to do a test design or create our own little design. So here we have some options. We hit that plus button and we get a level, a slope, an alignment and section. For any level pads, that's what you're going to do here. We could do that. We could do a simple slope if we want to get something to drain from one side to the other. And then we have an alignment and section that's a little more complex. So you have an alignment, so basically like whatever you want to do, you could follow the edge of a road and create a ditch. You could do create your own little road if you're in a dozer. For excavators, most likely a ditch. You could create that ditch however you want it to go, and then create the cross-section view of that ditch. You use your machine as hitting those points in the three-dimensional world, and you keep going. Why don't we give that a go? So you have a few options. You have templates. If you've done them before, you can have they save automatically, and you can have them loaded in here and reload them, so you don't have to create the whole alignment again. In this case, we have not done that, so we're going to use the focus of our blade. We're going to make sure we focus on our left part of our bucket, and we're going to mark out where we want to go. So we're going to get some engine revs, and we're going to start. I'll start really close right here. I'm going to hit this plus button right here, and that's created our little 3D point. If we wanted to go lower, we could make an adjustment here. So our northing 781, our easting is 872.05, and then we've got our elevation of 296.98. We can adjust that if we want to go lower than where we're actually at, or we could just hit the top surface where we want and have it go down 6 feet afterwards with an offset. Why don't we just keep it simple and we'll do that. So next, We're going to move to our next point. Next point's there. We're going to hit that plus. Now it's created an alignment for us. We can keep going if we would like. And say it juts out a little bit over. So we'll come over here. And it does a little jut over there. We'll hit that one. We'll hit plus. Everything that we did right there, it was just created. All right. So now let's say that's the alignment that we want to follow. We're going to hit next. And we can do an on-screen creation of what our profile is going to be. So it could be a simple little V-ditch or something like that. Maybe not a V-ditch. We'll do one with a little base. If we're doing a ditch like this, it might actually just make sense. If we don't care about anything, we'll just do a straight line across and just offset that down, that surface down. So we don't have to worry about the walls stopping us from going down. But in this instance, let's just do a simple one like this. We'll maybe do a little bit of an overbuild on our design. You could also just create half of your ditch and then mirror it. So if you were creating a road, you could create half the road and then use this button here to mirror it at the origin or at the end point of where we started. And that'll mirror it and create the rest of the road. So you only have to do half the job. So we can hit next, and we can view our 3D, our focus. We can do 3D view and rotate and look at what we've created. There's our 3D surface that we created. We could go to the previous screen and make adjustments. Maybe I didn't create enough. So you can go, so you can subtract one, create a bigger base. Next, you can make everything a little more in place. Now we got a bigger base, so we don't worry about hitting the walls of our ditch. Come up here and we name it. You can also extend your ditch. Say you've created this, and now you want to extend each end a little bit further than previously. So let's add another 10 feet on each end of our design. See how it just created that? It could be for roads, whatever you're building. And hit apply. Now it's already selected that guided surface. Hit apply. And we're good to go. This last dashboard square is just our licenses that we have on here. On our receivers, left and right receivers, and then the bundles that are on the display. We shouldn't have to worry about that unless something's not showing it there and not allowing us to hit the start button. We hit start, and there's our surface that we created. Now we've got our cut fills down here. Everything on here is adjustable just by clicking and holding. So if I didn't care about the center here, I could just click and then drag it over. Okay. I like to have my elevation brought over. Here, so I can see a live reading my elevation. I really care about my left and my right bucket. Here's the focus. So the elevation is technically 296.75 to my left tooth right there. Something to pay attention about. Up in the top here, we have our offset. So like I said, we could have just created the where our ditch is going to be and the flat top, and we could come up here and offset. We can click and drag to adjust, or we come in here and then delete and then put our offset in. Subtract, and we can hit save. We can any kind of offset that you have in here, you can adjust. You can have save multiple ones, and so far I have not seen a limit to how many offsets you can store in here. But the main thing why it's important is because it's kind of cumbersome to come into this screen all the time. So if you save them, all you have to do is tap this and it'll cycle through all of your saved profiles, offsets. That goes the same with your horizontal offset. If you wanted to, if you had an alignment or a line that you wanted to guide to with a dozer or whatnot, you can click the line. The line's created this way. We can offset it so it's positive would be to the right, negative would be to the left. So we're going to make sure we do that, and we can say to the left. Now just offset that way. So do something more drastic so we can see. Maybe not 100. Let's go 10 feet. So we'll offset that line 10 feet. So you've got your machine, and like I said, it's just kind of like your cell phone where you can play around with it. If you use 2 fingers, you can slide it over and change, and that changes your views to single, to double, to triple. You can adjust each screen on what you want to see. Perhaps if you're running 2D, you can change your view to a bubble so that you know that you're level, because you got nothing to reference your location. So you want to dig straight, you're going to want to make sure that you're level before you start digging. So in 2D, this is a great screen to have. So you can manipulate this screen however you like. You can change it where it turns into a pan. If you ever get lost or whatnot, you can hit this top right and it'll put you back to the default settings. Slide over. I love the 3D view because you can kind of look at your surface and see if there's any issues with it. This can go with any other design that was created. Someone, if it was a third party that created the design for you, you could bring it in here, take a look at it, and make sure that it's a good, clean surface before you give it to your operator. So if you were to dig, we could easily just come up here and start digging. So if you notice there in the top, when I go off design, it gives me a warning. I lose my cut fills. So whenever this green line gets outside of the surface, you lose your cut fills. You still get your northern eastern elevation, but you lose your cut fills because there's nothing to reference it off of. So in our case, we probably wanted to overbuild this so that we don't lose our autos or whatnot. Also, while you're in here, the focus, you can also click and hold on it, and it gives us more options. The center is also overcut protection. If this is on, I hit apply, and I hit autos, and I try to go into this, and my bucket goes, it might be easier here, if my bucket goes right here and I try to hit autos, it is going to stop me and protect the surface so I can't go further down. Sometimes, in this case, I don't really care about that, so I'm going to keep that off. Hit apply. So I can start digging until I get down to grade. Bear with me, I'm not a very good operator. But as you see, as I'm going, it just keeps adjusting my cuts and fills. They're live grades. They're using the IMUs on this machine to calculate its 2D position using my 3D grade for positioning. So I could move my tracks and this position will always be here. may have offset a little too much. I don't want to dig to China, so let's call this good. And your operator can keep going as he's going. And if he has automatics activated on here, he can bench the bottom, or he can hit his autos and it'll dig and it will protect the continuity of the design. So some more options that we have here is some of the views that we have on our screen. So we have our layers. We can click and hold. We can turn off the machine. We can turn off the attachment, and everything that we do here, it shows you. I've had customers that have wanted this NVC. A lot of them, it kind of gives you a translucent bucket, so that they can see the line work through their bucket. A lot of guys, they just have a surface or line work, and they're digging to that. They know the elevation they need to get to, so they wanted to be able to see through that. Most people keep everything on. They turn off maybe some machine boundaries, things like that. Just cleans up the screen for you. So some of the other settings that you have in here, if you ever want to get back to your start screen to change radio network or anything like that, you can click and tap the cat grade and jump into this screen. You've got different menus with different things to select, like job setup, same as if you're up here. Multiple ways to get to the same location. Horizontal and elevation offset, and cut fill mapping, record a point. So if you click this button, that'll save a point for you, a three-dimensional point on your screen. So if I found something, an arrowhead or something like that, that might stop the job or whatever, or I found a pipe in the ground that I know is not supposed to be there before I damaged it, I can click this and I created a point. Now, because I turned that layer off, never mind, I did leave it on. There should be a point right there. Let's see if it's in one of my other views. Yep, you see that? That circle, that's the point that it's measured. There's also a mode called measure mode. So I could take this and use it as a giant tape measure. If I needed to know how far a pipe was from here, I could set my origin and my next spot and measure to that, to here, and I could pull tape and find out that that's actually 18.04 feet. On this screen, we just have more setup for the machine itself. So machine setup, like our dual GNSS, our system status, our layout, our light bars, text ribbon, overlays, the same things that were up here. Our units, US survey feet, degrees, percents, our stationing, and how we see our coordinate order. Increments, grade tolerance, machine file management, and then changing our GNSS correction source. So we've got that in 2 different locations. There's also a thing called our buzzer. A lot of people turn this off, but if you don't want to look at your screen, you just want to dig and listen, you can turn this on. So when you get to grade or above grade, it will beep at you. So sometimes there are issues. Say something gets damaged, and maybe a receiver's not working, a cable got damaged from a tree branch or something like that, and you're having intermittent issues or just plain old issues. And sometimes we need, when we get here, the thing's working. It happens a lot more than I like to admit. But in order for us to understand what's going on, if you hit these 3 buttons up here, there's a system snapshot. It takes a picture of the last 10 to 15 minutes. If you select, and we can take that information, and if you have Works Manager, we'll be able to pull it off of Works Manager from wherever we are in the world and just log into the account and take that information, send it to Trimble, and they can identify a plan of attack for fixing the issue that you're having. Also inside here, you've got your installation contact, Sitech Midway, and there's our phone number. We also have a tutorial. So if you're ever waiting on trucks or anything like that, and you want to learn a little bit more about our technology, you can come in here and there's reference guides for you. If you want to learn more about using design mode. It'll populate a screen for you to read through, and you can learn as you go. I'd like to show you guys some of the stuff to watch out for on this machine. So here we've got a pretty well protected rotation sensor that gives us our bucket articulation, but we've got cables that run up the side, so we want to make sure we're trying to stay out of trees. We've got a sensor up there that's giving our stick angle. We've got one up here right by the light that's giving our boom angle. Then if you come inside of here, we've got our EC520 that communicates with our display that's up in the cab. That's giving us also body information, along with the CAT sensor that's in there that's giving body information. And if we come up on top, the things to look out for are your receivers. These are pretty expensive, so we're going to make sure that we protect them at all costs, try not to hit any branches or trees with them. The cables themselves are not that expensive, but these receivers are pretty expensive. If you see some damage to this radome, give us a call. We'll get them replaced before they damage the internals in this. So we've got two of them that we've got to watch out for, and then we've also got some antennas. This is for our modem, and this is for our radio. This is what's picking up the signal from our base station. So we want to keep that up in the air so we have a clear line of sight for the radio signal from our base. Thank you for joining me today. If you have any future questions about the machine or any technology, please contact your local Altoffer dealership.